Hello everyone, it's me, host of Elected News, Luke Rader. We are currently on the road in Washington, D.C., filming for our Elected Goes to Washington special, premiering Thursday, April 18th. Tonight is the one-year anniversary of the Downtown Utica Hospital miniseries. So in celebration, here's a brand new, never-before-seen interview with Utica Common Council President, Michael Galime. We have a lot of new interviews coming your way very soon as it relates to the hospital, and we hope that you will enjoy. So, do you support the Downtown Hospital?
I guess at this point you'd have to say no.
Yeah. Why not?
From the very beginning, and this goes back 3 years ago, the entire initiative, even going back even further to MV500, was kind of, in my opinion, misdirected for that area that it's cited for.
Mm-hmm. And so where do you want the hospital to go if you could choose any location?
The only way I could answer it is I have some suggestions on where it could have possibly gone.
Yeah.
But at this point, I kind of wanted to see the site study. I thought there was a lot of merit in renovating and or building a new wing or even new buildings up at St. Luke's because of the location with Utica College and the cogen plant. There was a lot of other places in the area that people brought up. You know, a lot of people were talking about the psych center. That seemed like something viable. Not Old Main, I'm talking about all the land behind that, okay? And there's also a lot of different plots of land along Risky Boulevard that people have voiced. It just seems that there were a lot of different places and maybe some alternative locations should have been investigated.
Yeah, and on the flip side to that, what do you think should happen with the Columbia Lafayette District? Do you think it should stay the way it is, or should they get private investors to come in and try and fix that up? What do you think should happen down there? Because there's a lot of stuff going on there.
I guess if you talk about the Central Business District, going back from when we blew up the Fay Street warehouse, okay, when that actually came down, the Route 12 project was originally planned as a catalyst for that neighborhood. We saw that, you know, towards the end of that project, Court Street, Lafayette Street, and Columbia Street intersections were going to be revitalized because they just had to redo all that because of the Route 12 work that was going on. Right from 2014, working in the building and actually watching that come down from my office window, we had it videotaped, it was pretty cool. I saw the wheels turning where there were so many businesses in the Central Business District that even I was shopping at, between Fisher Auto and Empire Bath or UAP or Wilcor International, all these different places that were there. If you really looked at that neighborhood then, there was only a few empty buildings. So to provide a catalyst for redevelopment in an empty area is a very difficult thing to figure out. But what we actually had as far as the state of the city in the Central Business District was 30 acres of tax-paying businesses. And I kind of look at when any type of neighborhood wants to be redeveloped, the hardest thing to do is bring in post-pilot tax-paying businesses or landowners in general. And that's really what the city had and still has. 3 years into this process, with all of the press on the downtown hospitals happening, people's buildings are going to be knocked down. You've seen a few businesses leave and relocate already. You've seen a few businesses kind of stop moving their businesses forward. I didn't really see that a private developer had to come and change a whole lot. Really what that district needed was just simple, common sense type improvements to support the taxpayers that were already there.
Yes, some of the buildings down there, usually those are the ones that they hold up as kind of the poster children. Those are owned by the city of Utica, as far as I can tell.
2 of the 3.
Yes.
Yes.
So why are those up to codes, and why are they, if they aren't, why are they not? Because it seems like there's a lot of open windows and whatnot on those buildings.
Right, and they've been left to get worse. The Photo Fair building, the Jones building, those are the 2 that you're referring to as city-owned.
Yes.
Then there's also the Norm Seacon building. Mm-hmm. Those 3 buildings. That's one of the biggest things that have bothered me throughout this whole 3-year process of proposing the hospital. Anytime the news would come in, or anytime the OD would come in, anytime any type of media spotlight was put on that neighborhood, they didn't show ABC ChemDry or Empire Bath or UAP or Wilcor or Brandalese and Clementi, all the great businesses or Dataflow that were down there. What they did is they put a camera on 3 buildings that were in really bad shape, 2 of which the city owned. It's just a shame that that's what portrayed this neighborhood throughout this process.
Yeah, and why have those buildings not been, maintained? Is that because they're waiting for the downtown hospital and thinking this is going to be demolished, or is it because they have not been able to find anyone?
I don't have a real answer for that.
Okay, that's fine. The mayor believes that the downtown hospital will help the quality of life in the city, citing other cities, creating districts and moving their medical centers into the downtown region. Do you agree with that, or how do you feel about how this helps revitalization of the downtown area?
You don't know. You can't answer that. When you say something that is conjecture, it's hard to agree or disagree with. Because saying how the downtown hospital would help the downtown area, I can't promise one thing or another. What I do know is, just like you were asking what I do for a living, I'm a project manager. I like to deal with knowns. What we did have and what we do have are tax-paying businesses that are there, that are happy to be there now. What we're going to have after the fact is a large construction period, followed by the installation of a hospital if it actually goes to plan, which will be surrounded by a lot of parking lots. When I travel to bigger cities, I don't see hospitals as a catalyst to make things better. And at this point, a lot of the original promises to, say, Hotel Utica or the Odd or, some of the larger businesses that were told we're going to make the neighborhood better. Well, right now what they have is just 3 years of just stasis. There's nothing going on.
And speaking of the Odd, do you support having a casino?
No.
You don't want to have. Why do you not support that?
I don't think a casino. I don't think it's a good fit to put a casino at the Odd. I think that Turning Stone really worked in the place it worked because it was a destination. I think that people kind of, even if they're local, kind of go away for the weekend to the casino. I don't see what they want to put for, as far as what I've seen, the proposals in Utica helping. I think that it puts gambling in a place where people have to make hard decisions about how they live their lives already. I don't think it's a good fit. I think that when they originally put a lot of money into the auditorium, it was pitched around family, life, and arts, and entertainment, and sports, and this whole family initiative. And I don't see how a casino fits into that at all whatsoever.
Right, and I think the idea of that, though, is to make Utica that destination, is to make, not just have Turning, but make Utica that destination. So if we have if we have the casino down there, I mean, they have proposed other stuff with the craft beer museum and all that other stuff. I'm sure you support all the rest of the U district, correct?
I think the one strong thing they have out of the U district proposal is the Nexus Center.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Everything else around it, if you're asking specifically about that, I think is at this point almost a waste of taxpayer dollars. Why would we invest that much money into a beer museum, for example, with a proposed however many visitors they had in the report? We have a brewery, we have a beer museum, we have brewery tours, we have a lot of stuff going on already. You have to start adding up how much money you're putting in and then how much money you get out, and at some point you have to actually look at it holistically. What they've done with the Odd is great. The Comets coming here has been wonderful for the area, but the addition of the Nexus Center may build on that. Casino, I really don't think is a great idea. And the beer museum, the hops farm and all that, I don't see how that won't just become another government-run facility that consumes tax dollars more than it adds to it.
Isn't that just saying that business as usual is just business as usual? I mean, if you want the city to expand, don't you need to try new stuff? Don't you need to spend money on craft beer museums or U districts or downtown hospital districts? Don't you need to kind of expand and grow and have new stuff going on in your city in order to grow?
I've lived through Utica expanding and regrowing. When I started this office we're sitting in here now 10 years ago for a different company, there was no Utica Roasting. There was no Taylor and Cook. Okay, half of Varick Street wasn't there. Utica, the original reason you started talking to me was with the hospital. When the MB 500 proposal started, when the hospital proposal started, Utica had already built itself up out of the private sector without piles and piles and piles of government investment. And taking, however, whether it's $500 million for MV 500 or $300 million for the hospital, or however much money they want to put into the U district, you have to consider, what the impact will be on the community. It may be positive, but I don't think it's worth the money. I don't. I've seen such a rebirth.
Don't we want that money from the government? We're constantly passed up for money from the state. It goes to Syracuse, it goes to Buffalo, it goes to Rochester, it goes to Albany, and when it comes to us, we don't get the money. Shouldn't
Getting
we
the money
be
isn't the
wanting
point.
that money?
Getting the point. Money isn't the point. Okay, if we get $300 million for a hospital, and this community has to spend $300 million we couldn't afford to spend, we didn't really get $300 million.
We're not spending $300 million. I believe we're only paying for the garage, from what I've heard and from what I've been told. We're only paying for the garage. The hospital's being covered by.
Well, the other $300 million I was discussing was just an example of.
Yes.
If we
No.
spent
I'm
money.
saying for the hospitals. If we get back to the hospital,
Okay.
we're only paying for the garage.
Right.
Correct. So why would you not support the hospital? Are you saying it's bad that
What do you mean
the
only
government?
paying for the garage?
We're not. The Utica taxpayers are not actually. Indirectly through the state, they're paying for it, but Utica itself is only paying for the garage.
You could look at it like we're only paying for the garage, but when the project started, we weren't supposed to be paying for the garage.
No, I'm aware.
All right.
We got tipped on that.
Well,
I know
that's
that.
right. Now, when this project started, I was also told that if anything else happened, they were going to be paying for that. Well, right now, Utica's giving away its properties to the project. Okay, it's goodwill. That's in the mayor's MOA. We're going to be relocating our police facilities. All right, that's another unincurred cost that we weren't supposed to be dealing with. So the question is, how many more things will be coming down the pike that we are going to have to pay for? The other thing, there's a lot of intrinsic things that are going on. We are going to lose tax revenue. I know that for a long time they were out there saying, it's only $47,000. But the $47,000 we were losing a year was only the county portion. Between city, school, and city, school, and county taxes, plus the library taxes that come out of the area, it's well into the 200,000s, and then it's not even counting the sales tax we're going to lose. There is a preemption that does come to Utica that we're going to lose. And in general, anytime any level of government, whether it's Utica, county level, state level, federal level, increases its expenses, then it does hurt us locally, because it's less money we have to pay for the services that are necessary.
Mm-hmm. But isn't paying that money worth it? I know right now so many people leave the city to get health care.
Mm-hmm.
They go to Syracuse, they go to Boston, they go to wherever there's better health care, which is a lot of places. Isn't it worth it to spend that money if we're getting better health care? And what I will say too is the mayor, we sat down with the mayor as well.
Yeah.
And so he said that MVHS had told him that new equipment would be added to the facility later on. He said that was a part of the project, that new
Where's that written down?
medical equipment would be added. He said that MVHS has told him that. Are you saying that, has MVHS said anything to you about that? Or have you heard, or has the council heard anything about that? What, do you think that we'll be getting new medical equipment?
Right now in the seeker filings, it says the majority of the equipment will be moving from the existing facilities to the new facility. As far as state of the art goes, they're referring to the building itself. They're not referring to new equipment or
That's
new
not what the
X-rays.
mayor said. Is the mayor not telling the truth, or are we getting new equipment, or is that not the case?
I don't know.
From your knowledge?
I'm just going by what's in the seeker report.
Okay. Has
Okay.
MVHS said anything to you or the council about whether or not you're getting new?
No, they have not. And what I've read in the filings from the February, when they had to file this project with the Oneida County LDC, basically what it says is that they are relocating much of the equipment. Some of their equipment will be sold. They're merging the facilities. I'm sure they'll have to buy some new equipment because not all of it's going to fit, not all of it's going to be compatible, and so on and so forth. But that's also something else that's not in the budgeted money.
Right.
So I can't tell you. What I can tell you is when they refer to state of the art, they're not talking about the actual health care that will be delivered.
That's not what he said.
I'm aware, but it says in the actual MVHS project filings that they will remain the same facility. They're going to be an acute care facility with emergency room services. That's what they are now. That's what they'll be after the merger. There's no increase in specialties. There's no increase in bed count. There's actually a decrease in pediatric bed counts. What the public thinks is going on with this project is not what's in the actual project the way they have it written down. It's just not.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, we don't need two hospitals right now. The city of our size, at least, we don't need St. Luke's and St. Elizabeth's, which is part of the reason they want to consolidate.
You could make an argument for that.
So when they say that they're, when people are saying they're going to consolidate, we're losing beds, we're losing this stuff, that was a part of the plan to begin with. But are you I want to get back to what the mayor had said. Are you saying that the mayor is not telling the truth when he says that we're not getting new health care?
I can't verify I don't know exactly what he told you.
I can bring it up.
Well, so here's my point.
Yeah.
I mean, you could bring it up and listen to it.
That's fine.
Regardless of me listening to it or not, I know what my answer is going to be.
Right. From your knowledge, what he is saying, you've not seen that anywhere.
Right. The mayor's drawing conclusions based on what he's seen, and I basically like to discuss what the hospital wrote down in the actual the local development corporation's application for the project.
Mm-hmm. What have you done to work towards preventing the hospital from going downtown on the council? I
haven't actually worked towards preventing it from going downtown.
Okay.
The only thing I've done is work with the process. I met with the architects. They identified me as somebody who they'd want to talk to if they were going to try and bring it downtown. I did provide them suggestions on how, if it was going to go downtown, how they could limit the impact on how many businesses they might need to, overtake. Ways where they could, again, in my opinion, tie it into the neighborhood rather than just kind of drop a suburban campus into downtown. Make it more of an urban hospital if they're going to build an urban hospital. The only thing I've done to this day is try to hold the process accountable to what it needed to be. And if we held it accountable to what it needed to be and went through seeker and applied for the project in a timely manner, which they did not. They just made this a real project February of this year. Okay. Would have helped them either start the project and finish it where they want to build it, okay, if they followed that process, or earlier on in the process, pick one of the alternate locations which they themselves said they have, because they couldn't work this out. Instead, what they did was fixate on the downtown campus, location, and just continue to say, no, we're doing it, no matter how many hurdles there are. And from the very beginning, I thought $300 million for healthcare, this is great. We can either, merge our facilities into one, potentially build one, but from the very beginning, I can't get away from not saying, what are we building and why?
Yeah.
Yeah,
and so, do you believe this will be harmful to the city? Do you believe this is something that will hurt the city? If there is a hospital downtown, do you believe that would be more harmful to the city than what we have now currently with our healthcare? I know you can't, it's not known at this point,
no, I know
but
what you're saying.
Do you believe that personally? Do you believe that it will harm the city if the hospital goes downtown?
I think it is going to have a negative financial impact on the city of Utica. I also do think that this isn't specific to the hospital. These types of economic development projects, as pitched by New York State, have a negative impact on small business in general. What have we seen happen in the past 3 years? What we've seen happen is the government and one big corporation, the hospital, whether they're not-for-profit or not, it's a private corporation.
Right.
So you've got the government, a quasi-public private entity, Mohawk Valley Edge, and the hospital getting together and saying, we want this land, we're going to take it. That's what they're doing. That's what I don't like about all of these government-run projects. The only reason Nano, okay, didn't have this much of a negative impact on, say, small business locally is because they did it in a field.
Right.
But what they did here is they took roughly 30 acres of downtown, put it in limbo, and as far as I'm concerned, any current business owners and any potential business owners that would own property have now questioned whether or not that property will be taken from them.
In that footprint, but I've seen outside the footprint from what I've heard from certain business owners that have moved in, some of them have moved in because of the hospital going down there. Because what I personally saw out in Buffalo,
Yep.
and people dispute whether or not that is downtown. I personally believe it's downtown, but people may disagree.
Well,
But-
bring that up again though, because there's a good point in people disagreeing what is and is not downtown Buffalo.
Right, and I think, you know, if I go on to that point, scaled down to Utica size, the the BNMC, the campus out there,
Right.
is the same distance if it's scaled to what's going on at MVHS here.
Mhm.
But I will say, in Buffalo, there were stretches of businesses going all the way down. We went out there, we saw all these businesses that have been there the last 5 years as the thing was being built, and it filled up. And I know it's not the same project, it's on a much larger scale and all this other stuff.
Well, what I will say
But-
is most of the things that have built up in Utica weren't because of the hospital, because they didn't say the hospital was coming downtown until well after those things were coming in into the
Right.
area.
Right,
You know, they attribute Hotel Utica,
right,
okay, to the hospital.
correct.
Now, is it to the hospital, or is it because Hotel Utica wanted to know, okay, that Columbia Street and Lafayette Street and Cornelia and Broadway were going to be, quote, revitalized?
Right.
What these businesses were promised wasn't a hospital. They were promised something, okay?
Right.
And that's what people aren't understanding. Basically, the whole argument for putting a hospital downtown is that we were just going to let this entire neighborhood go to waste. So essentially, you said you interviewed the mayor. It's been 6 years since Mayor Rob Palmieri, became mayor, right?
Office, yeah.
Well, basically what he's saying is we have to put a hospital there because nothing's happened. No one took care of that neighborhood. We had many years to do that prior to the hospitals being proposed downtown.
Right.
Nothing was done there. Nothing was done there when the state DOT had renderings of what Columbia and Lafayette were supposed to look like, timed with when Route 12 project was finished. Okay, there was a trajectory for Utica in 2014. That trajectory was ignored. That's what people seem to keep forgetting. There were businesses coming down already. There were restaurants opening up already. The Comets had already done for downtown Utica what people claim the hospital's going to do. Now, granted, an entertainment venue like having the Comets down there is much different than a hospital.
Right.
But I guess, do we need it or not? That's a question I can't answer. What I do know is I would have done it differently.
Right.
And if they were going to build the hospital, I wouldn't have said, no, you can't build a hospital downtown. I would have said, if you're going to build a hospital downtown, how are you going to work with these business owners to buy their property?
Well,
I would have said, another
You're fine,
thing.
yeah.
No, I just want to say what.
Yeah.
The other thing I would have said is, if you're going to consume this much of taxable property, what is the city going to get in return? Is there going to be a shared services agreement? How are you going to replace that lost revenue? Because I am refusing to project that having the hospital downtown is going to replace to the taxpayers the lost revenue.
Right, and what I'll also say too is, if you believe this will have a negative financial impact on the city, then why is it still going on? Why has the Common Council not stepped in and done something about it, and done something to say, to either call them out on the fact that you have not yet agreed to restore this lost money to the city, or have you not, prevented it from taxpayers losing all this money?
I voiced it multiple times.
I know, but what
Some of the
has
council people,
happened?
some of the council people have agreed that there's financial implications, but by and large, in this area politically, people feel that this is some kind of team. Okay, that the checks and balances of government don't matter, And then if you're not on the team, you're against it. That's why there's this yes-no mentality. And that's the problem. Everyone's afraid to say, people are afraid to question it, because if you bring up legitimate questions, then you're going to be perceived as this wrench thrower, and now you're against the project. I mean, that's one of the reasons people box me into a no attitude.
Yeah, I'm not saying that. I'm not trying to box you in at all.
No.
I
I'm
understand.
just, yeah.
And I feel like, what have you personally done to, if you think that this is going to have a negative impact on taxpayers, what have you done as their common council president to either prevent this from happening or to hold MVHS accountable and restore that negative financial impact? How have you ensured that this will not have a negative financial impact on
There's only so much I can do as council president, but what I've done is every time something comes out, whether it's an edge report on how we're going to replace the revenue, or the seeker, request for input, I not only present that to the council as something that they should be acting on, I reiterate, all of the numbers and bring question to them. I ask them to verify them independently. I go through all of this repeatedly with the council. I mean, the last 3 years, I had a lot of different plans for being like council president. I didn't think it was going to be completely enveloped by this hospital project.
Right.
But it was. And the reality is, I'm still sticking with the fact that we should be holding people accountable to this process.
Has that happened at this point? Are they accountable? Do you feel?
I don't think they are. I don't think they are.
You don't think that you don't think that do you think this is going to have a negative financial impact on the city? Do you think that's going to happen? With trajectory being right now, do you think that this will have a major negative impact on the city?
Whether it's between the garage, the loss in tax revenue, I do. I truly.
And how do we help that? How do we stop that from happening? What can you do as common council president, and then what can we do as citizens here in Utica? What can we do to prevent
I'm giving you a real raw answer here. At this point, I don't know.
Yeah.
Because it seems like it's been 3 years, and I've personally tried to work with them to hold them accountable to some standard, and also worked with the public to inform the public what's going on, whether it's WKTV or WTR or the OD or my personal social media presence, all of the input that I've sent through Seeker to the planning boards, everything I've been very public about, and it doesn't seem to help. It really doesn't. It doesn't.
Yeah.
It was a couple of years ago, I organized all the businesses together, not to rally against the hospital. I got them all together. I tried to get all of them. It was a good portion of them. I think it was 12. And we had a really good meeting. And they were able to exchange ideas together and say, where are we? And then dispel some rumors and all that. And some of the businesses have helped them move forward in trying to openly negotiate, because if they want to sell, they can sell. That's the reality of it. And others, it allowed them to realize that they're not alone in the whole situation. There's a whole, over the past 3 years, there's so much. At this point, I'm almost saturated with things that I've been doing. It's almost hard to talk about at this point, because nothing seems to change what I originally figured was going to happen. I thought, from the very beginning, I thought this was the beginning of a long strategy to kind of push people out, make the property worth less, get the property for whatever budget they needed to in the first place, buy the property, redevelop the property, and in the process of making it look empty, so that if people do start paying attention, they go, yeah, look, there's nothing here. Yeah, because now Umpire Bath is gone. John Bosco House is gone. Fisher Auto decided to move. Actively they're taking value out of this district.
Right. With the buildings that we talked about, the Photo Fair building and all that, the city of Utica has had a role in this as well. It looks, those two buildings are the two poster child buildings, and the city of Utica owns them, and they have not maintained them. Well, they've not got them up to code and whatnot.
For me, that's why for me this isn't necessarily about the hospital.
Right.
This thing happens over and over and over again, this process of a government owning a little piece of something, letting it go, and then having complete overreach into the private sector and now all of a sudden saying, hey, in order to fix our problem here, unfortunately we have to take all your property around it because our idea is just going to fix everything.
Right.
It's a silver bullet project. They don't work. They don't. It's just time and time again, you can go through history. They don't do anything. They end up ill-maintained and just a drain in society, basically.
Do you believe that those who are working towards getting this to go downtown, the mayor, Assemblyman Radici, County Executive Pacini, the folks at MVHS, the folks at MV Edge, do you believe they're doing a disservice to the people of Utica?
Yes, absolutely.
Why is that?
We had an opportunity to garner $300 million to advance healthcare in Oneida County. Not build a new hospital, advance healthcare. If you really think about what we needed, now you could say we have too many hospitals. We have two, they should be merged, and so on and so forth. Maybe one of them should have been shut down and they should have merged. But if we had to use $300 million to improve healthcare, what do people need here? The people that are here in Utica that need the health care that they're targeting, okay, are the type of people that shouldn't be going to an emergency room when they shouldn't be going to an emergency room. And what are we putting downtown? Are we putting an outpatient clinic downtown? Are we putting a healthcare clinic downtown for, asthma type related issues or obesity or any type of sicknesses, flus, chronic illnesses, that people who have trouble getting access to health care can better themselves? No, instead what they proposed was taking everything we currently have and spending upwards of $1 billion, moving everything around in the region and just putting it all downtown. What we'll end up with when we're done is a new building with the same health care that didn't improve anything.
You ever consider running for mayor or a higher office?
I've considered running for higher office. I got into local politics because I have a really involved private job. So I can't just walk away from a business. I can't do that type of thing. So I wanted to be local. But the reason I'm in politics is more abstract than like local politics. I didn't get into to run for mayor or walk up the ladder of politics. I'm in politics for a different reason. I really truly believe that, I know this is off topic, but the reason I really got in was to fight against government overreach. Okay, that's why this hospital project has been such a hot button issue for me. It's not that they're building a hospital, it's that they ignored the fact that operating businesses maybe wanted to keep their own property. Okay, it's the fact that bureaucrats would take $300 million and say, you should use this to improve healthcare, and instead turn it into a giant construction project for a new building, when there's a million different options that might have helped us. And then, you go to a higher level. Right now, we spread democracy, right? Well, this country's not a democracy. This country's a constitutional republic with democratically elected representation. That's an important nuance that as time goes on is just kind of bled out of our country. And that was my drive to kind of get into politics. I think that very notion can be tied right into the hospital project. Okay, property ownership, personal rights, everything, it's all been ignored. Okay, you had a committee of people acting as nobles almost, saying this is what's good for your neighborhood. Meanwhile, they never even talked to the people that owned the neighborhood. Think about that. It's crazy.
Right.
It's scary. That's why I'm in politics, because I feel strangled by government, so I want to right that from inside of government somehow. I don't know if it's going to work. It might drive me crazy, but that's what I'm doing.
Right. Well, thanks very much.